So since we're kind of in a lull in terms of Halo news or anything new Halo related really, I thought I would kind of just make a video talking about a little bit how I got into Halo really briefly, and then we'll go into my opinions on the different Halo games over time. I'm not going to get super in depth as I might do videos on each game in the future, but this will kind of give you like my brief opinion on each game. So first let's start kind of just like a quick story about how I actually got into the Halo franchise. So growing up, first I had an N64. And on the N64, I mostly just played like, your generic Mario games and different platformers. But on the N64, I did get my first taste of FPS with like 007 and Perfect Dark. And although most people probably preferred GoldenEye, I actually preferred The World Is Not Enough, the 007 game that came out in 2000, because you could play against bots, which made like multiplayer games a lot more easy to play since I didn't really have the ability to connect a bunch of different people onto my N64. So after N64, I got a PS2. And at that point, I honestly mostly just played sports games and some racing games like all the Need for Speed games and all the Gran Turismos. And I really didn't play any shooters on the PlayStation 2. So then what happened was, as a kid, I got an allowance for doing different chores around the house. So I saved up all my allowance and the PS3 had just came out. So I got my dad to take me to the mall and we went into the GameStop there. And I went in and I wanted to buy a PS3. And I don't know why, but basically the GameStop employee convinced me like, nah, you don't want a PS3. Let me sell you an Xbox 360. So that's what he did. And the Xbox 360, it came with Call of Duty 3 at the time. And so I played a little bit of that kind of just with one of my friends that lived on my street that would come over and play games. Like we played split screen. And then I don't even think I played the campaign, honestly. I didn't play too much of it. So then I kind of went back to my normals. I picked up like the Madden at the time and the NCAA football at the time, and I was playing those. And then I got GameFly. So I rented Saints Row because I loved the GTA games back on PS2. Oh, that's another franchise I played a lot of. So I got Saints Row and just got hooked on the multiplayer, which honestly wasn't even that good. Like they had this game mode called Protect the Pimp, where basically one character on each team, it was a one life per round mode. And the one character would have a shit ton of health, but could only melee people, and he would just pimp smack you and it would one hit you, but it would send you flying. And I don't know why, but that mode was just a ton of fun. So then after Saints Row, kind of bounced around from different games that I just rented on GameFly. Like I played the Fear multiplayer a good bit, and then eventually I got into Rainbow Six Vegas, which I was absolutely ass at for the longest time, but I played a good bit of it. During this time, I did play a tiny bit of Halo 2, but I didn't get too into it. Like I knew what it was, and I knew it was supposed to be pretty good, but at the time, it was just an Xbox original game. None of my friends really played it, so I didn't really get too into it. But anyways, at this point, we're getting into 2007, it's my freshman year, everyone's talking about Halo 3, everyone's hyped. So even though I hadn't played a ton of Halo, I got pretty hyped about it. So I picked it up the day it came out, and I just had no clue what I was getting into. The first 2 or 3 days, I think I basically just played the Legendary campaign with a friend online, after school. And I remember getting through it just by basically one of us would sit back and the other one would just suicide in repeatedly because you'd respawn with new nades every single time. So we'd just run in and throw our nades and then die. And we did that to get through the entire game. And then eventually we beat it and we played our first game of multiplayer and we played a ranked game. So I managed to go negative just because all I was doing was running around and throwing nades at people and getting super confused because I was used to in other games where if you were on a grenade it basically killed you in one hit. But in Halo, obviously, the grenades don't kill you in one grenade unless you're already weakened. It just takes off your shields. So I was just running around chucking nades at people like I did in the campaign and getting annoyed why am I not getting any kills? But anyways, toward the end of the game I think I figured it out, but I still didn't kill anyone. So at that point, I'm absolutely terrible at Halo, but it was just the beginning. So I played a shit ton of Halo 3. Everything about the game, honestly, was pretty perfect. There was little things here and there that people disliked, and some of the Halo 2 purists preferred the Halo 2 gameplay to Halo 3's multiplayer gameplay. But if you look at it objectively, there's really no way to argue Halo 2 was a better overall game than Halo 3. Because Halo 3 added in Forge, a more customizable custom game lobby system, they had more matchmaking modes, eventually, I'm not sure if they had more maps, but they probably did at the end, more post-launch support. Halo 3 was just a more complete product, in my opinion. I put thousands of hours into it, and it was basically my favorite game, probably of all time. I spent countless hours grinding rank, trying to get 50. And you know, for people like me who weren't as good, you played lone wolves to get your 50. And so I did that. And then, you know, eventually you play so many games and you're stuck in a rank, so you think, oh, I'm locked by the rank system. So you play in a new account and you try ranking that one up, and I did all that too. And it was just a ton of fun between playing ranked, playing customs, redoing the campaign a ton of times, getting all the skulls. It was just probably the best game, like I mentioned. So after that, you know, I played Halo 3 for 2-3 years, pretty much exclusively playing COD 4 here and there. And then sort of fell off as like Modern Warfare 2 came out and started playing that. So then we roll around to 2010 and Halo Reach is coming out. And again, you know, super hyped about it. But this time around, I didn't dislike Reach, but it was nowhere near as good as Halo 3. There were some things Halo Reach really improved on. Like the campaign was cool, and the new Forge in Halo Reach was amazing. But I disliked like the addition of Sprint and all the Spartan abilities. I missed the battle rifle. I absolutely hated the fucking ranked mode that they put into Halo Reach. And if you don't know how it worked, I'm kind of hazy, but basically, instead of Halo 3, where every single game you'd play, it would count towards your rank. Either if you won, you might rank up, or if you lose, you might rank down. Halo Reach had this weird system where you could play as many ranked games as you want during a week, but only X amount of them actually counted. So you could play 100 games and do well in like 5, right? And those 5 are the ones that counted. So I just thought the system was kind of weird and I didn't like it too much. There was the multiplayer mode where it was the Spartans versus the Elites, and that was a lot of fun. I can't remember the name of that one, but I did play a good bit of that. And like Big Team Battle in Halo Reach was pretty fun. But Halo Reach just didn't stick as well as Halo 3 did, and I stopped playing it like maybe 4 to 6 months after release, probably, before the title update came out way later on that updated a lot of the settings, which I think I would have enjoyed. I think one of the main reasons I stopped playing was if you played Halo Reach, there was this firefight bug where you could disconnect your internet mid-firefight and basically just get like endless credits depending on how often you wanted to do it. And so I did a lot of that to buy a bunch of armors, because in that game, they had one of the coolest unlockable systems in probably all the Halos, because there was tons of different armors you could get and it was all unlockable through the game. It wasn't stupid microtransactions like Halo 5 has added. But anyways, so I did a ton of that bug to get a bunch of credits, and eventually they reset all my credits and took my armor away, which made me sad. Like I said, Halo Reach, it wasn't a bad game, but it wasn't necessarily my favorite. So then we move on to Halo 4, which came out in 2012. Halo 4 came out, I think it was my freshman year of college, could have been sophomore year, not 100%. At this point, I'd kind of fallen off of playing 360 games in general. I was doing other things, but Halo 4 had just came out, and as a big Halo fan in the past, I figured I would at least try it. I didn't actually buy it though, one of my roommates in college had it, so one night I just borrowed it from him and I popped it in, and I hadn't followed anything really about the game, so I knew nothing. So I launched up the multiplayer mode, and there's like ordinances and loadouts, there wasn't a ranked mode. I was just like, what the fuck is this shit? I played for a couple hours, and it just wasn't any good, so I basically never played Halo 4 again until MCC. In MCC I played a bit more of it, but MCC was a fucking mess. Really the only part of Halo 4 that I find redeemable is like the campaign was okay. Big Team Battle in Halo 4 actually plays pretty well, surprisingly, even though I don't really like Sprint or just the Halo 4 sandbox in general. Big Team Battle played pretty well just because you could get around the map quicker and the vehicles worked pretty well. Overall, Halo 4, terrible game, but there are some redeeming factors looking back years later. So next up was the Master Chief Collection 2 years later. So at this point, I had basically exclusively started playing games on PC, but I was getting back into playing games a ton. I was playing a lot of League, some CSGO, just basically all sorts of different PC games. So they announced the Master Chief Collection, and I decide, dude, this is perfect. I can just play a ton of Halo 3 again. So I went out and I bought an Xbox One just for MCC. And, well, as you know, MCC was a fucking broken mess. So that just turned me off. I basically stopped playing within weeks because you couldn't find matches and it just pissed me off, and I never went back to MCC. So then next up, Halo 5 comes out in 2015. And so after MCC, I was basically had no intention on buying the game. I was pretty pissed off with the franchise, pissed off with 343 because they ruined my favorite franchise and I didn't know what the fuck they were doing anymore. But I remember sitting on Twitch and I was watching Summit actually play, I think it was SWAT. before the game even came out. He was either playing in the beta or some type of pre-release. And I was like, well, shit. Like, Halo always gets me back. It looked decent enough, so I decided to pick it up. And I actually got really into Halo 5. I probably put a couple hundred hours into it. I was level 105 or something like that before I quit, which I know isn't amazing or anything like that. But I had played a lot. I grinded getting champion in different playlists, and I actually enjoyed the core gameplay loop. Although sprint and Spartan abilities will never be my favorite in Halo, I'd prefer classic. I thought they played okay. But I did have a lot of problems with Halo 5. For example, the feature list that it came out with on launch was just pathetic. I actually made a video in this, so I'll link it in the top right. But basically on launch, we didn't have Big Team Battle, we didn't have Forge, we didn't have a custom game browser, and there were some other minor features we were missing too that just left a sour taste in your mouth. Because if you'd played Halo 3 or Halo Reach, all these features came out on launch with those games, and then they're going to come out with a game almost 8 years later, or 9 years later, that doesn't have any of the features that those games had. It's just one of those things where you look at 343 and it's like, you did something cool, but you can't do one cool thing and then just screw up 10 different things. It's just one step forward and like 10 steps back, as this other YouTuber has said before, Weapons Grade. It's kind of how he describes 343 as a company. And I think it really hits the nail on the head for 343. Because every time they do something cool in Halo, they fuck up like 10 other things. And it doesn't make any sense. Like, how do you keep doing this? But anyways, that's kind of Halo 5 in a nutshell. I like the gameplay. I didn't like all the missing features that didn't come out until years later when I'd kind of already fallen off the game. The game had population issues, the maps weren't that great. They did this weird thing where instead of creating like cool new maps, they kept just revamping existing maps, and I mean, that works, I guess. Counter-Strike's been doing that for like 20 years, but in Halo, you want to see new maps. You don't mind if you see some of the old classics or some redone maps, but you want to see new maps that are well made. And that's what Halo 5 didn't do very well. So where are we now? Well, we're sitting here waiting for Master Chief Collection on PC with basically no news. I mean, they've done the flights for the campaign and the firefight, but there's been no flighting for the multiplayer. And at this point, we haven't really heard news in a good month or so as to when Reach is even going to come out on PC. And this is another one of those things where I just don't understand what 343 is doing. Now, I know some people, they get on, they say like, oh, give them a break, they just want to make sure the game works this time, we don't want another MCC debacle like we had in the past. And I understand that, you don't want them to release a broken piece of shit game, but I also don't need them to tease that MCC's coming out and then just basically ghost us with information. Because if you think about it, at this point, when is Reach probably going to come out? Later this year? Maybe next year? And that's just one of the games in MCC. They were going to roll them out one at a time. So you're looking at Reach in January, Halo CE maybe February or March, and then, you keep going. When is Halo Infinite going to come out? Well, it's supposed to come out in 2020. So either you're going to still be releasing MCC games on top of Halo Infinite, or there's going to be like a 2 to 4 month gap, and that doesn't make any sense. But I guess I'd rather them do that than release a broken game. I don't even know at this point. At this point, it's disappointing. I wouldn't even be surprised if it never comes out. I could see 343 one day coming out and saying like, hey, we can't get it to work, sorry. And that would be it. Anyways, so now we're kind of sitting here, we're waiting for MCC, we're waiting for Halo Infinite, and in Halo Infinite I'm hopeful, but honestly very skeptical. One of the head dudes for 343 just left the company not that long ago, which is never a good sign when the game should be in the last year of development, because at that point is when you should be touching up the game, and with a head guy in the company leaving, there's probably a lot of conflicting ideas, you don't really know. I would love to see a return to Classic in Halo Infinite, but I mean, it probably won't happen. 343 kind of has the way they're taking the franchise, and that's okay. They just need to do it well, which I think is the problem. I'm a little worried they're going to do a weird thing where they try to cater to both the Classic fans and the new Halo fans, and we'll end up with this shitty game that falls somewhere in the middle that no one likes. And I guess at this point we just wait and see. I mean, the trailers look nice, but we still have seen no gameplay. So once we eventually see gameplay, I'll probably make some videos on what I think about that. But yeah, so that's kind of the story of how I got into Halo, why I love it, and my thoughts on all the games. And Like I said, Halo 3, probably the best game of all time. Halo 2 was a great game, I just didn't play a ton of it. And then after that, it's kind of been less amazing. Halo 5 was fine, Halo Reach was okay, Halo 4 was Halo 4, and then the MCC was just a fucking shit show. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. I've just been playing some like generic Halo Online clips in the background as they're easiest for me to get. But subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff. I do have a Discord you can join, I'll put the link below, and sometimes I stream on Twitch. Thanks for watching, guys.